What was yesterday's kind of innovation is becoming today's kind of mainstream. I think of my role really as being everything to do with the customer. So between myself and Joel, who's the CEO at FeelUnique, his background is in the beauty industry, so he's very much focused on building the relationships with the brands, and I see my role, which covers marketing and technology and operations as well as finance, being all about how we deliver that service to the customer. I think probably the first thing, a lot of hard work. I think often people see a business growing fast and think that it's somehow effortless, but actually it's really about relentless attention to detail and really kind of making everything work. And I think also for us, we're a business that operates over a number of geographies, and actually right now we've got good growth in each of those areas. So the UK, where we're quite well established, France, where we've got a small business that's growing very fast, and then China, where we have a good partnership relationship that's growing kind of exponentially fast as well. So all those three things together add up to a good overall growth rate. It's partly about technology. For me, it's also about trying to make sure the customer experience is the best possible thing for the customer. So if you think about just from a kind of developing the customer experience, there's a few things we've done recently. I mean, we're actually, strangely actually, the only online pure play in beauty that has a loyalty service, which we've had now running for nearly a year, and that's been a great addition to our portfolio. We just recently launched a subscription to get free next day delivery, so pay £9 a year and get free next day delivery for the whole year. Again, nothing particularly new in general, but actually no other competitors of ours doing that, and that's been a great innovation for our customers. At the more pure tech end, we launched about a year ago an app to do virtual try-on of makeup, and I would say that's more in the kind of fine-tuning of technology rather than the current customer experience, but that's trying to test out something that might become mainstream in the future and really kind of learn from that and see whether it's something we want to build on. We try and listen to our customers a lot in lots of different ways, so that can be just through unstructured feedback that we get through our customer care team, or listening on social media, through to surveying our customers, and we currently have a tool that we've had live for a few months now which does a constant surveying of customers, so you can really see how those responses change as you make changes to the service. And then really also monitoring behaviour on the website and seeing what people are doing on the website and what things they're trying to do but not succeeding. So we try and be as broad as possible in taking lots and lots of different types of customer feedback and using that to think about what we do. For me, the interesting thing about e-commerce is that when people first started selling online and buying online, it was all about the transaction and all about just being able to go in as you do in a shop and buy something. And I think increasingly people understand that customer journey is more complex than that, and there are a number of different phases, and beauty in particular, if you're buying a new product, there's lots of different phases you might go through. So broadly I see 5 different types of activities a customer wants to do. The first is discovering something new they may not know about, so that's kind of more a kind of serendipitous kind of thing through maybe editorial content, through social media. The second is really getting advice, so you might want to know what's the right makeup shade for you or the right thing for your skin, and so again trying to find the right ways, both through human ways but also through technology, to give people advice in an efficient way. The third stage is trying, so in some cases you want to know how does a fragrance smell, or how will that look on my face, or whatever it is, so trying to find different ways to facilitate that. Obviously there's a buying stage, and trying to make that as efficient as possible for customers. And then finally, after all that, there's a kind of feedback loop where you want customers to share their views, to recommend to other people, to give reviews on the product, on the experience, so you can then feed that back into a better experience in the other stages along the way. If I think about online chat, which has been around for a while, but I think is a kind of great way in which you can actually engage with a customer and give them face-to-face or not, sort of face-to-face advice. And actually video chat is something we've looked at to actually give literally face-to-face advice, so that's something we're doing. And then you can take that the next stage potentially to automate parts of that piece, so you can sort of maybe cut out the first few questions, make it automatic, and that just saves some time in the process. And then there are other pieces that aren't necessarily that kind of automated, but for example, just having content around the shopping experience to give people more inspiration to do that. And one of the things that we're really looking at is how do we match the wealth of data we have around what our customers like to do and the products that we have, and so building that into a very tailored, beauty-specific recommendation engine is something that we put a lot of work into and is really valuable for us on our site. What was yesterday's kind of innovation is becoming today's kind of mainstream. So I think you always have to maybe have one eye to the future and thinking about things that might become mainstream in the future. So there's some kind of core basics around e-commerce really, which about having a great range of products at the right price, be able to deliver them efficiently. That kind of thing. Those are the kind of three pillars, and then everything else is adding to that in some way. I think the kind of virtual makeup thing for us is really an example of innovation where it's not mainstream today, but you can see a situation in a few years' time where anyone selling makeup should have that type of capability, either on their app or on their website. So we want to make sure that we're dipping our toe in those things, understanding how they work, and then potentially building them out in the future. It's sort of twofold in a way, because I think there's a challenge about being in a premium sector and there's a challenge about beauty, and when you put those two together, they probably make a kind of extra special challenge. I think if you're dealing with kind of premium brands that are kind of high end, have a certain kind of brand value attached to them, it's really important that in the online environment you give them the respect that those brands need, and you don't kind of undermine the values of the brand. So that's quite a difficult thing to do, because actually beauty in many respects is quite a promotional category, and people are buying items that aren't necessarily essentials, but they're kind of little treats for themselves sometimes. So sometimes price and promotion are a nudge into getting people to buy a product, but you also got to make sure that you're not doing that in such a way it undermines the quality of the brand. So bringing those two things together, I think, is a unique challenge. One of the things is to try and work out what things we're good at and where to partner other people. So one of the things that we've been doing recently is building what we call our order processing API, which enables us to link in with third parties who might, for example, have a sampling service where they're sending samples out to customers in a kind of industrial scale. Once that customer has tried that sample and wants to buy, then actually directing them to our website and sending that order to us to fulfill that. And so one of the unique things that we have is we have a very extensive range of brand relationships, and that's quite hard to build up over time. So there are people who maybe have sold one part of the customer journey and doing that really, really well, and we want to make sure we kind of link in with them. So when we think about the customer journey, it's not just the things that we can do, but it's actually are there other good people out there, and how can we then tie in with them and make the whole thing work for the customer. One of the things we probably were a little bit late to social media, but it's something we've been doing a lot of catching up on over the last 2 or 3 years, and I think we now have a good strong presence across that. And for me, social media is a really interesting area because each channel is slightly different in terms of how you use it. So getting a different type of content, a different tone of voice in each channel. So how you use Twitter is different to how you use Instagram, but around that, keeping a kind of totality of kind of the whole brand look and feel and tone of voice as a holistic thing, but using each channel in the right way, I think, is really important. It's a bit like these days people say, do retailers still need stores? And we have stores, but for a different reason, but people still like to have a kind of a place to go, and I think the website is still that kind of flagship place where people find everything about you. But China's a great example where people will buy products straight off WeChat. They don't need to actually kind of go and visit the actual website. So I think it's about having kind of different layers and being where the customer is, but also giving them the chance to come and explore the whole service if they want to. Every year we try and just improve the experience a little bit, and it's always a slightly interesting time because every year, probably 3 years ago was the first time we really experienced Black Friday as a kind of thing, and you think that can't get any bigger, and every year the sales volume gets bigger. So we're trying to not do anything too fancy because it's not a day for taking risks and experimenting, but actually improving the technology we've used before, the way we present offers, the way we communicate with our customers, trying to just do that better each time, and also make sure we're well prepared in the distribution centre as well, which is the most important thing.